and hit those notes.
I've got vocal range. I've got multiple octaves. We are going to talk about somebody who has vocal range today and how that applies to PT. She is a mega superstar. Breakfast Club PT. We do this weekly. This live stream. Talk about a bunch of stuff. I don't know. What would you say are the major ingredients? I mean, obviously, like, you know, healthcare. I would say it's not limited to PT. I'd say it's healthcare. We're PTs, but business, sort of marketing, communications.
You mean for the show, what we're doing right now?
Overall, yeah, I would say overall, like what we get excited about.
It seems like it's everything other than clinical. I was thinking about that this morning. I was like, we never talk about clinical. You would think a PT call-in show would be call in with a condition, call in with a challenging case, but we don't do any of that.
I was explaining that to someone really close to me, and she's like, but you don't talk about, like, I've never heard you, like, you don't often say the word shoulder or knee or joint. And I'm like, there are 1,000 other people doing that. I work with some of those brands. APTA Orthopedics, they just launched a podcast. Trust me, they're going to talk about stuff like that. There are a million of those. So we're like everything you didn't learn in PT school.
Yes, I love it.
All right, so we're going to talk about personal branding. This came about because I think I texted both of you a picture of a postcard that I got in the mail, an actual postcard mailer. People do postcard mailers, but hey, physical advertising never works. And here is what it looks like. This was laying in my mailbox. And it's just a postcard, right? It says Boston on the front, APTA CSM, date, a logo, Achieve Physical Therapy. I have no idea who these people are. And then on the back, I was like, okay, got it, Boston. But on the back, really grabs my eye. And it says Taylor Swift Miami, October 18th. Visit booth 5070. And I was like, what is this? For a chance to win 2 free concert tickets to see Taylor Swift, who I don't know if you guys have seen, but she's got a little bit of airtime going on. She's making a couple of bucks out there. And I was like, this got my eye, but I had a few thoughts about this mailer. And I shared the front and the back picture with you, and I wanted your thoughts. And we didn't share really thoughts. We did a little bit, and then we said, stop, let's just share them on the live stream. What were your thoughts on the mailer? Who wants to go first?
Dave, you go first.
I first of all, I would just be skeptical. Like, are they actually giving away tickets at the booth? I understand that it's for attention. Right. They want CSM attendees to come to the booth, and it's probably, this is before I looked up the website, but I was like, it's probably a recruiting thing where they want to get more people, their names, their emails, their phone numbers to write down or enter it on an iPad or write it down on some list or something for them to collect leads to then try to recruit those therapists, even if they're from across the country, to come, move to, work at that Boston clinic. They have like 5 locations or whatever. I think it's a good idea if, for attention and marketing, and we're talking about it. Like I said, you sent us pictures. We're talking about it on a video right now. So obviously it did its job. First of all, is it a real giveaway? I don't know. Like, do they actually have the tickets? Maybe not, because I think you said it's like a chance to win. So it's like the practice is also in a chance to win. So it's like, do they actually have the tickets or not? I don't know.
I think they do. I mean, to me, in my mind, because I was on the back end of creating contests. To me, this is an ROI thing. We need attention. If you've been to an expo hall like APTA CSM before, it's chaos. It's like Central Park on the busiest day of the year. Taylor Swift tickets, I looked up really quick for that show, were like $800 to $1,000 a pop. So it's $2,000. They are not promising hotel, flight, all that. So it's $2,000. You're all in for $2,000. Unless they bought the tickets early when it was like a couple $100, because these are all scalped up because of, scalpers and whatever. So this is $2,000. A mailer, I don't really know. I didn't do a ton of mailers in radio, but they're not terribly expensive. So they obviously bought
like $1 or $2 each.
Yeah, so they got access to a list, and they're saying, and are you guys going to CSM? Are you on the? No, okay.
No.
So if anybody is watching right now and you got one of these, put in the comments. I want to know. Because I'm guessing they got the list, but maybe they didn't send them to everybody, because I am in New York. I'm a couple states away. I wanted to know if someone's going to CSM from California, did they get this? Because that could be another segmentation to just reduce costs, but also increase like accuracy. Because there's a marketing person in there into this who's got to answer for this. If it, what happens, right? I think it was good. I think it was a good campaign. Got my attention. I was like, Taylor Swift. It's sort of like, really though, which is cool. And I forget what the name of the principal is. There's always these like, the Murphy's Law and the Pareto principle, but there's a principle in giveaways. And the principle is if the prize seems too big, it seems like, nah, I'm not even, like if they were giving away a Ferrari, it's like, I have no chance. I'm not going. They might be giving away the Ferrari. Someone is leaving CSM with the Ferrari, but it seems so out of reach. It's like, eh. And then also if it's like, we're giving away 7 Bic pens, it's like, I'm not going there for 7 Bic pens.
You got to be in the
prize,
title.
right. If the prize is too low, it's like, why bother? I'll probably win, but who cares? But too big, it's out of reach. I think this is in the sweet spot of that. We're like, okay, that's $2,000. A company, the booth itself, just getting the 10 by 10 square is a couple grand.
Yep.
So I think this chance to win thing, I think we might have been over. That's just legalese and how you have to say it. Because I don't think so. I think this was good. Yeah, and then I had to look them up because I was like, are they a PT? Are they a marketing company? What are they doing? So I don't know. This might have been carefully not a lot of information on their card because I did the same thing too. I think if they would have done, my only critique would have been put less on the card, like going to CSM. You could be seeing Taylor Swift too, and then just the website or something. You know what I mean? Like strip it down to as little as possible. I just flashed my address on the live stream a couple times.
You shared your number, so it
doesn't matter. No one's coming.
So wait, what is Achieve? I still don't even know.
Okay, Achieve. So Dave, you looked it up. I'll bring it up on
they
the.
They have like 5 locations. They're like outpatient ortho.
They physical therapy clinic,
admin office. So they're like some critical size.
Okay, so it's a business. They're in Boston.
In and around. To me, like everything in Massachusetts is Boston. I'm seeing Acton, Hudson, Sudbury, Bedford.
Gotcha.
Acton. See how you can't say some of these town names like Bedford. It's not Bedford. It's Bedford. It's like you have to. I dated a girl from Reading. That's how I knew that a million years ago.
Taylor Swift.
Bedford, Medford. So yeah, they're a PT outpatient PT clinic with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 clinics. One of them is specialized in women's health.
Okay, so I mean, interesting. I probably, you got to assume Taylor Swift. They're looking at a target demographic of young female Swiftie PTs, right? They're not looking to hire you or me. We're not going to get. We don't have the same appeal to try for those tickets. So they're looking at a clear demographic.
Yep.
I certainly wouldn't have wasted the front of that on a huge name like Boston. Like, who cares? That's not going to attract me.
It should be Taylor Swift. Exactly.
Yeah, 100%. I would have plastered it Swifties and bling and everything. We had Taylor Swift come through Cincinnati recently. And I was downtown for a Reds game with my family. I'm like, why are these women dressed like this? And then they were like, oh, Taylor Swift is here in like 2 hours. So that's what I would have pushed. But it is what it is. I mean, they caught attention. Like you said, it's different. At least they weren't talking about one-on-one therapy and quality care. They were talking about something that appealed to the target demographic of we want to hire a bunch of young licensed female therapists. So
exactly. So also, if you were going to give this a grade, I would give it an A-. Like, I mean, and really, it's a couple points of improvement because honestly, Dave, Tony, how many people do you think they actually could hire? Like, what's the, like, and we're spitballing because we need more information, but like them hiring 1 or 2 people could be a victory, right? I mean, one could be a victory. So you spend $2,000, $2,500. That's pretty good.
I mean, you'd spend $5,000 to $8,000 on a recruiter.
Yes.
So, and I am sure now that I understand this better, when my family got Taylor Swift tickets, they got into the lottery, they got online, they got 4 tickets. It didn't cost them anything extra. Like you said at the beginning, Jimmy, I'm sure somebody on the team got in there, got the tickets at the going rate when they went on sale. And now they're like, hey, let's leverage this. Let's use it. And if the person who wins it can't use the tickets, even better. Because now whoever's on the team that won them originally will go.
Yeah. So this was, I thought this was pretty good. I like this, and I wanted to sort of give this a shout. And it's just a good discussion points.
Yeah, and I think this leads into kind of the topic that I pitched to you guys was let's talk about personal branding.
Yeah.
We could talk about personal branding from growing a business, which I think all three of us have some level of a personal brand,
Right.
but then also from being a staff therapist. I think if I was a W-2 employee today, coming into the market, I would focus on building my own personal brand, even if I never grew a business, because my personal brand is going to bring value when I go to my next employer, when I switch jobs, when I go to the next thing in my profession. So I'd love to hear, like, obviously Jimmy's the king of personal brand.
I don't think
what are your thoughts?
So I'm going to start. I like to start with everything that I learned from in communications, because I learned it from like Franciscan friars. Like, it sounds like I was a monk living in the hills, but I went to a Catholic university, and one of my professors just spoke so well, and his brother Basil. And in public relations, I think I've told this like little anecdote before, but it's so good. He asked a room full of communication students what's public relations, and a bunch of students, we were all trying to impress the prof and it's spin and control the story. And he just sat there in his robe and shaking his head. And he said, no, public relations is building a relationship with the public. The answer's in the question, right? And I think personal branding is really, well, Nike, it's logo and it's font and color. And I think people like Chris Do, if you don't know who that is, look him up. He would say that's not it. He's like, I see that's what you see, but I don't even know whose definition I like the best, as much as it's what do people say about you when you're collateral, when you're not around, when your stuff's not around. I like to say it to people. I say, what does your organization smell like? And they're like, that's a weird question. I go, yeah, it is, but it makes you think. Because if I say, what does your organization look like? You're like, here's my logo and here's my font. What does it sound like? Well, here's my tagline. Here's my mantra. It's like, no, what is your organization? What do you smell like? What do you taste like? I like asking those two things because most of the time I'm not dealing with restaurants. So it is like, what do people say about you? That second and third level. And that by the second and third level, somebody gave this great analogy. It's like, once people start talking about you, it's like a running back. Once you get past the offensive defensive line and you're into the running backs, when people are talking about you, that's free money. That's because they're projecting, they're telling people, oh, you got to hear this thing. You got to go to this guy, you go to this booth, or giving away Taylor Swift tickets. That is when you become, and I know, Tony, you like this one, when you become remarkable.
Yeah. Worth remarking about. I
learned this word twice. Once when I started using it and kind of knew what it was when I was 12 or 15. And then the second one, I think it was Seth Godin, who said, you're worthy of making a remark about. You did something that someone else was willing to put your idea or words in their mouth and say it. And if that's not validation, I don't know what is. I'm willing to vouch for this person and say that their idea and share their idea. So I think personal brand is all the things that you do that lead up to that. Those are the things. So the last thing I'll say, because I could talk a lot, is you are either doing branding well or you are doing it poorly. This is, your muscle is either strengthening or atrophying. You are doing public relations well or poorly. It's always going on. Like, we don't do PR here. Yes, you do. How you interact, Jerry Durham would say, how you answer the phones, what it smells like when I walk in. Does it seem like chaos? That's branding. That's public relations. That's part of the relation. How do you make me feel? What do I feel like when I walk in your clinic, right? A bunch of clinic owners, you're going to go out and buy a bunch of air fresheners. Now, what does my clinic
start baking cookies in the clinic? You can get an automatic oven and buy those frozen cookies and start baking cookies in the clinic.
Yeah, absolutely. So I would say I like to start with the definition of what is it? Because it is, sometimes it's this amorphous thing and people like to think it's a logo I've got to spend 10 grand on. It's not. Dave,
what do you guys do for personal brand, for business brand?
Not much on the patient facing side, actually. I have an Instagram handle and we haven't posted anything, but eventually we need to do videos and pictures and all that. I have a bunch of like selfies with previous patients or current therapists with current patients and clients that agree to, selfie pictures, and we got to get them on video and all that. I thought when we were talking about personal branding, I thought we were saying for the audience, like if they're either a practice owner or if they are like a staff PT. Now on the staff PT side, let's say, because that'll probably reach more folks potentially. Sure. So I would love personally, and here's what's in it for me. I would love in general, if there were staff physical therapists that were coming to me looking to potentially work with me and say, hey, I have this personal brand, I have this following, whatever, and then they can leverage that to get higher rates or higher salary or higher compensation from me, especially if they're bringing some patients or if they're bringing some, some leads and patients to us where we have to do less work and we don't have a customer acquisition cost for that. They can certainly leverage that. Now, if you're a practice owner, the more video you put out, the better. I just tweeted yesterday, I tagged Jimmy on Twitter, and I heard a quote. It was like, all marketing is content and all content is marketing. And so practice out there, like, we're doing this and we all have fun doing this. And then we also, randomly benefit downstream from this type of stuff. We don't even know all the time what it's going to be, but if you're putting stuff out there, you will benefit. So if you're a practice owner, you'll get opportunities, you'll get people reaching out to you that want to collaborate with you. You'll get patients reaching out, you'll get therapists reaching out. So in terms of personal brand, it's just like, I don't know, it's like a long game. You got to just plant some seeds. And I think starting with video, talking into the camera is a great place to start.
Yeah. I think what's interesting is if we go back 20 years, 25 years, I'm in it, I think, deeper than any of you guys. I can remember talking to, practice owners back then before I was a practice owner. And the biggest fear they had was they would hire a therapist. The therapist would build relationships with referring physicians. And then that therapist would leave and take those referral sources with them. And that was a fear. That was something to be avoided. And that was something that they worked against. And of course, we all know there are still practices that have non-compete clauses and all sorts of ridiculous stuff. But if you embrace it, both as the employee, but then also as the employer, I've shared this analogy before. Like, we're here in Cincinnati, we've got the Reds, and I'm not a sports guy, but I know enough. The Reds they paid Joey Votto $40 million, right? Like, how does one athlete on a team make that much more compared to the guys that are on the practice squad? Right. They're barely surviving. Right. So the idea is, if I was a W-2 employee today, I see them on Instagram and I see them on different outlets. I would be building my personal brand. I would leverage that personal brand. I would be a business within a business, so that either I can deliver value to my current employer and we can talk about that value and how we can negotiate that beyond just a 3% annual cost of living raise, or that's something that I could take to the next employer, and if I'm a professional, that's coming with me, but I can't do it by myself. Now, what's interesting is, even outside of this profession, I've been talking a lot to the founder of My Body Tutor. It's an amazing program. He gets mentioned on social media all the time. And I said, you have a team of 70 health coaches. Who in that team has their own personal brand? Who in that team is putting out content? Like, why haven't I seen these coaches sharing information? Is like, well, that's one of the appeal for them, is they can come work for My Body Tutor and they don't have to put out their own social media. I was shocked. I swear, I was completely shocked, because when I look at fitness influencers with millions and millions of subscribers, I'm like, how can somebody not want to build that personal brand?
A lot of the Peloton instructors do have
a brand. I was just going to say that. Right. I ride Peloton, but I ride with these 2 or 3 instructors. Why? Because I rode with a bunch of them, and not that I disliked other ones, but I'm like, okay, I'm more of an endurance guy, so I like the Power Zone, and I like this guy's flow, right? I mean, that's what it is. That surprises me, is that piece of information, Tony, where they're willing to ride on that logo, they're willing to be a cog in the machine versus, but I mean, that's pendulums, right? I mean, I was looking the other day and I'm like, wow, more people are going to have a following of 10,000 something on a platform is not going to be a shock in 20 years, because we're all following. My question is going to be eventually, who's leading? We're all just following each other in a circle. Like, what are we teaching each other? We're just photocopying a photocopy. What is the pendulum swing back, I wonder, look like in 10 years?
So, with 317,000 licensed PTs in the country, again, I mean, we see PTs with 1 million followers.
Yes.
they're such a tiny fraction of the population, but
Correct.
we're here. We love to deliver actionable items to whoever's listening. So let's talk about how we do manage our personal brands.
Yeah.
You know, like we're all, I know we're on LinkedIn. I know we're on YouTube. I know we're on other platforms. So Jimmy, what are your main platforms? How do you distribute your content? Give 2 or 3 actionable tips to anybody listening.
Okay. So I'll give you that. And then I'll give you an example of how it worked. And it shocked me. So I'm on essentially Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. Why am I on those platforms? Because I like interacting on those platforms. People are like, you should be on TikTok. And maybe I will get there. Maybe I should be on Pinterest because Tony's going on Pinterest now. And maybe I will be there. But right now I like playing where I'm already talking. Like I feel like I don't mind. I like Twitter a lot more. And wouldn't you know it, Tony? I have a larger following on Twitter. Why? Because I play there more. Grass grows where you water it, right? I like the speed and the interaction and the voyeuristic. I can watch a conversation without having to be involved. That's harder on other platforms. I don't mind Instagram because I'm not really a picture guy, but when Instagram went into video, I got more interested, right? When it really embraced video. Facebook, because I went there for MySpace. So that's like, that's the old school. And that's where I see family and then I bump into everybody else, right? So I don't mind that. And I do like Facebook groups because that feels more like Twitter in this interaction banter thing about people combined with different likes. And then LinkedIn is just a brilliant idea. It's Facebook for resume. I don't love a lot of the content on there. I feel like I need to like water down stuff. So I don't feel like I write more articles there and then just drop a video and leave. But here's my anecdote. And then I'll show you how I approach creating content. I'm working with ATI Physical Therapy. They're a sponsor of the podcast. And I will be broadcasting. I'll be recording episodes at their booth. This is a paid project that I got, and I pitched it. I just I knew a couple people there and pitched an idea. They weren't asking. There was no job application out there for podcaster to come to our booth and do stuff. And I finally got to a person at this organization, and this person said, So obviously, if you were the marketing person at an organization like this, you'd look into who the hell this Yahoo is pitching that he wants to, podcast from your booth. He mentioned specifics about the show that I do. I like how you bring in psychology. I like how you do that a lot. He could not pick that up from listening to the first 15 minutes of an episode, like a couple of episodes. He has seen enough because I produce a lot. Now here's the actionable results, which is I hang out where I like. So I watch what other people are doing, and then I figure out what is Jimmy's version of this. I don't need to reinvent the wheel, but I am, right? So I like to create content on what content I like to consume. I don't like to do videos of like exercises. The humor videos, love consuming them. I consider myself a humorous guy. Too much work for me. I'd rather just turn on a microphone and talk, or a witty comment and go. So figure out what's right for you, because what exercise is the right exercise to do for back pain? The one you're going to do.
Right.
So I'd say figure out what you like. There are enough free tools that we've talked about on this show and we'll continue to talk about. CapCut, Canva is low cost, no cost. Figure out what you like to do. Put it out there, see what works and what you like. Again, you have to sort of be motivated there too. And the content you put out there that's crap, no one's going to notice. Like they're just not. It's in a sea of stuff. Like get over that, or maybe don't get over it. Get past it. That's better. Like just put it out there. It sucks. I don't know, delete it in a week. So do that, and that's your brand. That's it. It is that thing that cowboys used to have. The thing they used to brand a cow with. Right? There's the logo of the Yellowstone Ranch. I like to say branding is what are you doing with your hand to heat that brand up. The more you do, the hotter that brand is. So when you touch something, it leaves a mark. So that's how I look at branding. Vigorous friction. That's branding.
What about you, Dave?
So I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I am posting videos over to TikTok as well. I have joined TikTok. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So here's a thing. Facebook is who you know. Twitter is who you want to know. Oh. So Facebook and Instagram are who you know. LinkedIn is who you want to know. So I will put a lot of content across all the platforms. LinkedIn, I'll be a little bit more professional on my, Facebook and Instagram stories. I'll say the word ant or instead of isn't, or I'll say like my homies hanging out with Tony and, and Jimmy, like my homies, my buddies, whatever. But on LinkedIn, I'll be even maybe tighter, a little more, because it's people that I'm connected with, like, I don't know, like people that could be on my show in the future. I don't want to rub someone the wrong way. Maybe they could be future investors. Who knows? Like whatever. But I will kind of cross-pollinate the same type of content across different platforms. I did hear a podcast episode how like certain agencies will create new accounts. So for example, it would be like at Dave Kittle Show clips, at Dave Kittle Show reels.
Why is that?
So go ahead, Tony, jump in.
So yeah, I might have watched the same episode as you, listening to a guy. What this one company was doing was they were creating these multiple channels. So like YouTube, you'd have the full length, you'd have the clips, you'd have the shorts, all different channels. Just it gave them a place to just push and push and push more and more content. Part of his guarantee was, we guarantee we'll get you so many millions of views in so many days. Now, I shared a post about this. They require you to have like a $2 million revenue business. Like you can't just be somebody starting from nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was incredible, the system that they had laid out for you so that you can hear how they do this at scale.
I got to listen to that one again. I saw the post.
I'll share it. What do you think the cost of that would be, Tony, for that agency? I didn't look it up, but it's got to be, you think it's like 10, 20, 30 grand a month, or like?
Yeah, at least. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was some sort of revenue share going on with it too. I mean, I know people that are doing 10,000 a month for 6 pieces of content. Wild. These guys are doing hundreds of pieces of content a month. Yeah, it's got to just be unreasonable.
I've who said that? Probably multiple people. Who said there's the same amount of problems in $1 million business than there is in 100,000 business? The problems are just different sizes. Like someone said that. It doesn't really matter. It's probably said that 100 times. And it's funny is like I've needed to look at people in a Zoom call and say, I don't think we should work together because I don't think our values are aligned. Where they're like, but you're doing 10 things. Like you said, have you seen people do $10,000, $20,000 for 10 pieces of content? It's like, well, then each piece of content's $1,000. How much are you getting per hour? It's like, again, Chris Do would say, you're paying for the result.
Right.
You had the last 10 years of your life to create a video. Why didn't you do it? Well, you didn't know what to do. You didn't know how to do it. You didn't know when to do it. So I know all those things. So I'll be rewarded for those things because they'll bring in results. But I want to go around that concept again that you just mentioned, which is a lot of times starting from zero, starting with a brand that gives you their 100% of your marketing budget, and their marketing budget is $5,000 a month. And you're like, here's the deal. I can't take that. I won't take that because I don't know if I'm going to get you the ROI. Because your ROI, if I get 100% of your $5,000 a month budget and you're all in, you're going to need results tomorrow. And I'm telling you, what we started talking about this is relationship building. So this is where I get funny too. I'm going to do this in my presentation at CSM. If you want a relationship where you give the audience or your user money and they hang out with you, as long as you're giving them money, that's a stripper. Stop doing the money. She goes away or he goes away. The men and women strip. Building a relationship that lasts longer, where you can give something other than money or something of long-term value, takes time. I didn't do that to my best friend, right? Maybe I started out by sharing my lunch with him or my fruit by the foot in 3rd grade, but then it was like, oh, you're cool. You like baseball too. Let's go hang out. That's building a relationship. So organizations sometimes will just try to buy it quick. And I'm not saying these guys are trying to buy it quick, but this is a short-term thing. This postcard mailer we're talking about with Taylor Swift was a short-term thing, but they're okay with that because their ROI was, I'm guessing, 1. But some brands, like, we need to start selling these $150 items. Here's $5,000. We expect a ton of stuff to come in. I go, run an ad campaign. But that's an ad campaign. The minute you turn that faucet off, the money stops coming back. I like to work on long-term relationship building. That's just my thing. I worked at a radio station. That was all relationship build, right? They trusted me. Trust, I heard the other day, someone smart said this, is predictability. Trust is I can within a window or a few degrees know what you're going to do in this situation before you walk in the door, right? I sort of trust what my dad was going to do when I broke the window while he was at work and he was about to walk in the door, and I was like, okay, I know my dad, I trust him. He's going to lose his mind or be totally chill, right? I knew like within these 2 degrees, and he was totally chill. He's like, all right, what'd you do? I was like, I threw a rock. He's like, you gonna do that again? I go, no. Okay, good. Lesson learned. Move it on. But that's what branding is again. But again, transactional relationships, right? You go to a strip club and you money. Yep, she's going to pay attention. Money stops, go away. That's a transactional relationship, right? You can pay something different, and that's where we talk about value and content. And when I see Dave 50 times, have we talked about the 7-Eleven 4, 7-Eleven 3? Really?
Yeah.
7-Eleven 3 concept, real quick, is to get to the point where you trust someone through what's called an asymmetrical relationship. This right here. People watching right now on a live stream or listening to this on the replay might have never met me, although I am on the CSM 2024 bingo card. We'll talk about that. It's weird. It's funny. They've never met me, but there's an asymmetrical relationship because they feel like they might. I feel like I know who Taylor Swift is because I've seen enough footage of her. So 7-Eleven 3, you have to get to 7 hours of total exposure to someone. I think we're past that with Taylor Swift, even if you've never tried to be with Taylor Swift. Listening to a song that the person sings, watching a webinar. It does not have to be in one shot. You don't need to hang out with them for 7 hours. It could be a bunch of shorts that leads to 7 hours. 11 has to be at least 11 instances. So a bunch of shorts, a bunch of reels, a bunch of posts over and over and over, and at least in 3 different platforms until you'll think this guy's just everywhere. And I've had people say that to me. How do you have a job? You're like everywhere. I go, there's systems, and we can go over that in a future episode, like how you actually get 200 pieces of content a month. I've trained people, and they're like, that's impossible. I go, I'm doing it right now while I'm also coaching you as a job. It's 100% possible. You don't need me to hide the secret. This is on YouTube. Gary Vee will show you how to do it, or 50 other people will show you how to do it. So that's that 7-Eleven 3 principle or 7-Eleven 4 principle. I might be messing that last number up, but is how you get to that. So that's relationships. And that, I don't even know how we started on this.
Yeah, that was awesome. You hit so many topics. Before I share what I do for building my brand, we were talking about like the value of the client, the value of what you do to the client. You know, I've shared videos talking about 3 kind of pricing models, but the most important one, again, Christo, the Future Podcast.
Great show.
I'm shocked Dave doesn't know who that is.
Oh,
once you see it, you'll know who it is.
Probably, I just don't. Is it D.O.? The last
name? Look up the Future, F-U-T-U-R-E. Spells it funny.
No,
like, here's the best part. Spell it wrong. Yeah. And you'll still find him because he's everywhere. And he's just done it well. Like,
okay, I just Googled him. Yeah, I've seen him.
Yeah,
I'm not subscribed, I don't think.
You should be.
So something we don't talk about enough is, you know, we want to get paid more, but we don't consider the value of what we're delivering to the individual. And I know, I get it. It's sad to say, like, I'm going to put my mom on the spotlight here. When my mom was type 2 diabetic, renal failure, frozen shoulder, multiple comorbidities, all of this stuff going on, you know, she was so far down that medical model path that no matter the best physical therapy session in the world,
right,
wasn't really going to have that big of an impact. Right. So for her, she wasn't going to pay for it. It wasn't going to make a difference. It wasn't going to move the needle in regards to quality of life, health, any of those things. But on the flip side, you take somebody who, and I always say, like, major league pitcher who wants to get back to pitching, has a $10 million contract at stake, that rotator cuff repair, that Tommy John surgery, that whatever, it's going to have a major financial impact. The same post-surgical protocol for the pitcher versus my mom, very different dollar value, you know, and they should be charged appropriately. The Nike swoosh is worth a lot more than what I would pay for a Fiverr artist to create a swoosh for me, because Nike is going to put a heck of a lot more money behind the swoosh and putting the swoosh out there on every piece of merchandise they sell. Right. So I do really think that we can't think of what our service is worth from our perspective. It's what is this worth to the client, and are we charging appropriately for the client? That being said, going back to platforms, so forever I was just on Facebook. because I used Facebook, just like
Yeah.
Jimmy said. I created a Facebook group, not even just Facebook. I created the group because I wanted very niche specific people to talk to. So I've got my Medicare billing group because I want to talk to people about Medicare billing. I've got my knee replacement group because I wanted to talk to people about knee replacement. And I was there really, I think I got on Facebook like 2016, maybe 2014. And I just spent time and talking and offering my experiences and advice and, never selling anything or doing anything. And then gradually I got onto YouTube. Then I did the same thing with YouTube. I had my YouTube channel for knee replacement, my YouTube channel for Medicare billing and practice ownership. And now this year was really the first time I went from those two platforms, stepped onto LinkedIn, stepped into Pinterest. Pinterest, because I think that's underpriced attention. I think that the platform is ignored by so many people, especially from men. I think there's a massive void there from male voices. So I think there's a huge opportunity. I don't have an eye for design, but if somebody did, I think they would just destroy like the Pinterest algorithm. I've seen people with ridiculous amounts of engagement and follows, and that traffic goes from Pinterest to wherever you want to post it because every pin has a link somewhere.
Wild.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then, of course, LinkedIn, just like Dave said, building a professional network, but it's definitely a different community. They have different values, but I realized that I honed the knife on Facebook and YouTube. Now I can cut deeper on LinkedIn because I've got a skill set. I can talk, I can record video, I can do things that the typical CEO, the typical person on LinkedIn, they're just not doing, or they're not doing well.
Let me ask you this though. How much, and ballpark it, what percent do you change when you make a piece of content for a specific platform? Or do you just shotgun? I make a video, it's a vertical video, and I share it everywhere. Or do you tailor it a little bit? If so, like how much?
It's a good question. I wouldn't say I necessarily, what I do is I create content that I want to talk about.
Got it.
That I think people want to hear about, that people are looking for. So I should take two steps back. It's not that I want to talk about it. It's that I see a void. People want this information. I believe that I've got a unique perspective. So I create the content specifically for the identified void. Then what I do is I say, okay, this content is appropriate for this audience. I'm going to share it to that audience.
Yep.
So on LinkedIn, I share mostly my practice stuff. This morning, yesterday I saw somebody post something about a 4% Medicare reimbursement increase that they wanted people to write letters to Congress about, right? I'm like, 4%? Seriously? Is that going to make a difference? Is anybody going to, be able to afford a mortgage or a house because Medicare is paying us 4% more? It's like, we're fighting for scraps. I don't want to be in that game.
Right.
That's a LinkedIn post. That's content for LinkedIn. That's content for my Medicare billing group because it's very topic specific. So I create the content based on the void that I see, not just what I want. And then I put it on the appropriate platform to speak to the appropriate audience.
You thought about it.
Sure.
That's
a little bit.
That's what I want people thinking about. This is like, the example was I ran an alternative rock station. So Linkin Park, Foo Fighters, Metallica, AC/DC. But every once in a while, a song would come along and I'd go, this fits enough and is weird enough that I want to play it because this is the exception, not the rule. Hey There, Delilah. My radio station should have been a pop song, but we played it at night mostly, not during the day. And it was because I thought about it enough, and I was like, I think there's enough crossover for the dudes who are rocking and the people, and we had females too, about 70-30 maybe. So it made sense. But I thought about it. I mean, I painstakingly thought about where does this belong on the air or not? Is this something we get involved with or not? We thought about that a lot. And you should too, is what I'm trying to, that's why I'm telling that story. It's like, Tony thinks about it. It's like, this isn't a LinkedIn thing. This is, oh, okay. I look at the world in Venn diagrams and I'm like, this is me. And then what circles cross over and touch a little bit, a lot. Does this deserve, and then also, does it deserve my time? Like, do I have time for this? And if the answer is yes, 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 yeah, okay, it falls in my circle. It also falls in one. See, Tony's example is really great. The knee replacement, the Medicare billing placement, those are two different audiences. One is consumer facing, one is clinician facing. But you're like, I like talking about these things. Check. I feel like there's value here. Check. Is there a void here? Check. And to the void thing, I will say, if you go on YouTube and there's 100 videos about knee replacement and you're like, it's saturated, I will tell you, you're wrong.
Right.
100 is a lot in compared to the world and attention spans across the world. It's not a lot. So
yeah. And the way this would apply to, again, an employed therapist right now sitting out there listening to us, if you start putting that content out that's patient facing, if you start talking about the things that are important to you philosophically, like you as a therapist, what is uniquely valuable to you? What is important? What do you want your patients to hear, to see, to know? You share those messages. I guarantee there's an audience for that. And then what happens is the patient facing content brings you better patients, brings you patients that don't cancel, that connect with you, that feel like you're their best friend, that they know you because they've listened to 20 of your videos already. And now when they schedule and book that appointment, they're committed. They're not going to drop off and cancel and no show. From the employer side, if I'm looking at hiring clinicians, like just imagine the impact of, wow, there's a therapist here in Monroe, Ohio, who's putting out content. Obviously, that indicates they're motivated, they're self-starter, they're capable of seeing something through. But then I also know that they have their audience, they're going to bring that with them. You know, that therapist's value just rose 20, 30, 40%. Yeah. And so if I'm talking about the difference between paying someone $82,000 a year, $120,000 a year, that's where that difference lies. It's not in them, you know, trying to get a 4% raise in Medicare reimbursement. Right. It's in them bringing their audience with them. And truthfully, it's in me knowing as an employer, okay, I have more than just the interview to base my decision on, right? I'm risking $120,000 investment when I hire a therapist. I'm risking my business's reputation and branding when I hire a therapist. What information can you deliver to me that's going to verify, yeah, you have a history, a track record of getting things done? All of that comes through social media.
Yeah. Dave, what do you think?
Let me ask you a quick question. So on the practice owner side of things,
yeah,
over on Facebook, Cameron Dennis was checking in, watching us live. He's got Back on Track Physical Therapy. I don't know if it's close to you, Tony, in Ohio.
Yeah.
So I clicked over onto his profile, and I would say like he does a great job of the simple things of just taking pictures with patients as like when they're discharged, they're graduated, they're, you know, their peak of happiness when during their plan of care, after their plan of care, whatever. I would say that's got to be like the simplest form. I mean, even like that's easier than video. It's just like a patient or client, they're happy with the outcome, or they're almost discharged or almost graduated, or maybe they are, it's their last day. And then he and his staff are taking pictures with these patients and clients, and then he posts them on his Facebook account, his Facebook page. So I think that like just start there. That's the simplest thing, even before video, because I know some people get nervous and they can't talk into a video camera or whatever. Like at the very least, practice owners need to be doing what Cameron's doing.
Yeah, 100%. Cameron's a great guy. We've met in person a couple times. I remember watching, he would create videos. I swear he looked like he was 12 years old. But I've followed his growth and his development. Yeah, like in my clinics, I'm not the most social person. I'm not. So what I would do is I would grab other therapists who are a little more social and bubbly than me. We'd grab pictures, and this is going back before Facebook, before social media, but we would get pictures on graduation. We'd get pictures on any major achievement. We would give the patient literally a printed picture. We had a photo printer when that was modern in the clinic. But in today's world, if you're not taking pictures with your clients, sending it to them, getting them to share it on their social media, getting them to tag your business, what are you doing? Like, we're in 2024. How are you not leveraging those most basic opportunities?
Yeah. Help them talk about you. Make it easy. Make them the star of the show. I was talking with, I can't remember. I talked to a lot of people. Oh, I know who it was. I can't tell you who it was because we might be rolling this campaign out. So working with an organization, and they said, we want these two audiences to do these two things. I said, great. Those are great call to actions. It's great. We started with the end in mind. And now I said, how do you make those audiences part of the campaign? Because they were like, we want our leader to do videos. And I was like, does your audience have a relationship with your leader? Like, are they creating content now? Essentially, I was saying, where's this clinician bringing value already, right? Mike Tomlin, Steelers head coach. I'm a Giants Steelers head coach. I don't care your potential. I care what you're willing. I don't care what you're capable of doing. I care what you're willing to do. Like, you might be a number 1 draft pick, but you haven't done it. And nothing says I'm doing the push-ups like putting out 100 videos. Not saying to a clinic, I can do video production. Great. Where is it? Well, I have the ability. You haven't done it? No. So you don't value it. Why should I value it? So I don't care what you're willing to do. I care or what you're capable of. I care what you're doing. And you should be. And you're putting the words in their mouth. Show, not tell. We ain't in tell business here, people. If you're a physical therapist, you are not in tell business. You're in show business. I'm very sorry. And you might think that that's lowbrow. It's all the TikToks and the Instagram. That's not what I went to school for. I went for science. No, you did not go to learn stuff. You went to learn stuff so that you could tell people and show people, right? Showing works better. That's
again, the reality is, and I deal with insecurity every single day. There's still to this day videos I record. I'm like, I don't want to publish this. I'm embarrassed to publish this. I shouldn't publish this. And that's usually when I just rip the Band-Aid off. I hit publish and I walk away. And I'm like, I can always unpublish it if I need to later. But literally, like, every single day, there are things that I am fearful to publish because I don't think it's good enough. I think I probably said something wrong. Somebody's going to critique it. And even when they do, I'm like, who cares? I had an old video about a Q angle. I was talking about a patient who had a pretty significant Q angle. And I said something about the shin bone. And somebody made a comment that it was the tuberosity. And I looked at it and it ate at me. Obviously, I'm still thinking about it. It ate at me. But I'm like, who really cares? At the end of the day, yes, I used the wrong anatomical landmark. The principle is the same. The angle is, what I want you to pay attention to.
Yeah. You will never be, this is all I would say to that. You'll never be criticized by someone doing more than you. That's what I would say to that.
Dave, what's up?
With all your videos that you've done for like the total knee replacement videos, for personal branding, for practice owners out there, what's a video that someone has said to you or they say to you most often, the ones where you are speaking right into the camera, or the ones where you are in your clinic demonstrating something, or the ones where you're talking over something and you're showing a patient or client, like from the hip down or the waist down, you're showing them with their knee replacement and you're describing something like their scar, their incision. I watched a video of yours where it was like the bandage was still there and you were like, just leave it, don't pick at it, whatever, something like that. What from patient facing side of things, what has gotten the most remarks? Because if you're watching or listening, simply model whatever Tony is about to say.
Geez, I don't know. I honestly, I think the one that got the most, I should go back and look at this. The most engagement is probably my one about pain, like how painful is a total knee replacement. The ones about showing like the incisions and stuff, they gross people out and people will occasionally make comments and say things. But I think when you touch a nerve, like, pun intended, talking about pain, and pain is so tied to their identity. Pain is so tied to their insecurities and their emotions. I think probably if I was going to guess, when I said how painful is it really, or something like that, that is the one that drives the most engagement, because now I'm threatening someone's identity. If I say, anything about, and I love talking about pain science, and I love talking about, moving away from the biomechanical model of pain, more into the stuff that we're talking about these days, the psychosocial impact and all of that. That's what I would say. And I mean, truthfully, that's what I kind of do. Like, that's my whole shtick, is let's poke the bear. Let's see if we can drive some conversation, not just for likes and shares and comments, but for legitimate engagement. Like, am I thinking about things correctly? am I looking at this? Where's my blind spot? Because somebody should be able to show me where the blind spot is. So on LinkedIn, my biggest engaging post, the first one was, does it matter if we call ourselves doctors of physical therapy? I'm not a doctor of physical therapy, but does using the word doctor even matter?
Right.
And then my second one, I don't even remember, but it was something similar, and those are the ones that drive the most engagement because those are the ones that have the most polarizing positions.
Facts tell, emotions sell, emotions spread. This person shouldn't be watching right now on LinkedIn, but they are. Kenyon Parker is a future PT, just had a procedure on his Achilles, was very scared for the after effect it was going to have on him. So he might be very interested in a video that says, here's what it's really, really like afterwards. Do you think the video that would resonate the most with Kenyon is like a very, very overproduced, sterile video, or one of a patient talking, going, here's how it really went for me? So if there's an example of a PT, do you need to record that video? I would actually say you're the last person I want recording that video. If you're the surgeon who does Achilles repair, you're the last person I want done recording that video. You're going to record a different one. Here's how to prepare, right? I want a patient who's walked the walk. I want someone, so here's where we can get into like cool psychological terms. I want someone who can share sympathy, where if you're a PT or a surgeon, you've never had that procedure, you can share empathy. Sure, I imagine I've seen this. I've walked people through this. But after Kenyon is done and he's a PT, he will be able to share a personal experience. And trust me, that has weight. Want to know how I know it has weight? Amazon puts a lot of pressure and a lot of work into reviews and stars and comments. Why are they doing that? Because they're nice? Sure. But they're trying to make it easy for people to talk about the products that they sell, essentially them. So I think Kenyon brings up that emotion. When I do communications evaluations, people talk and talk and talk and talk and talk, and people are like, are you even listening? I go, yeah. I write down every emotion word I hear, negative and positive. And then I go back, hey, I heard with Kenyon, I heard scared in there. Did I get that right? Using a little Chris Voss, right? Making sure I heard what I heard what they said, or that was accurate. So if I mapped out a plan of what it would actually be like from day 0 to day 100, would that make you feel 10% better? Yeah. What if I laid exercises over that timeline from day 0 to day 100? Would that make you feel more secure? Yeah. What if I put my phone number you could text at the bottom right hand of that screen of that PDF I'm going to give you? Would that make you feel better? Yeah. Yes, yes, yes. And not just to get them saying yes, because you've accurately done something to not completely remove the emotion from Kenyon's path, but you've done incremental things. You think he's now going to choose you over someone else? Yeah, I think so.
I know we're about a minute away from wrapping up, but 2 quick things. Next week, I think we should target and talk about topics related to students that are DPT students, PTA students, and anything close to that. But related to the most common comment I get, and I hardly ever, I mean, we're talking a fraction of a percent, but the most common negative comment I get is, this person never had a knee replacement. How can he talk to me about the pain related to a knee replacement? And my comeback is always the same. Like Jimmy said, it's empathy. Yeah. I can't even imagine what you're going through. I've never experienced it. You're 100% right. The only thing I can do is help to share the experience of hundreds of other patients that I've seen over the last 20 years, and hope that that brings you useful information that you could help in your journey. Yeah. Like that's always my response to that. But that's the only thing I ever get. How do we wrap up the show?
Parting shots. What do you want to leave with everybody, Dave? How would you a single point, an overall point, whatever you want. Parting shot.
Parting shot, the top of the show about the Taylor Swift marketing. It was remarkable because Jimmy sent us pictures. We chatted about it privately. Then we put it on this show. And so it did its job. So think of that for your future marketing, your awareness, your campaigns. How can you use that type of technique ethically in your marketing, in your branding?
Getting someone to pay attention and spend time. That's what they wanted, right? Like if you break it down, they wanted you to pay attention to this and then come to booth 50, 70 to spend time. And then they're interviewing you from second number 1, whether you win the tickets or not. Think about this. The tickets are the worm on the hook. but you might want to be caught. You're the fish. You might want to be caught there.
Also, they're probably not going to pick the names out of a hat because the team probably has several tickets. They're going to Taylor Swift, and then there's one more for you at the booth, right? And whoever they like the most, that would be their desired candidate that they would like to potentially hire from meeting whoever. That's who they're going to pick, and it's probably by chance. I don't know. That's how it goes with these giveaways. At a NovaCare booth years ago.
All right.
I magically won a Philadelphia Eagles signed football, and I was like, "There's no way I won this." And the guy buttered me up the whole day, and he's texting me, and then I magically won this.
I'm not saying you're not wrong. I will say I got advice early in my radio career that you can do that. You can fake a contest, and the minute you do that, and one person says something about that, you can't wash it off. So I'm not saying it doesn't happen. It does. It does happen. I don't go anywhere near it.
You're right. I'm just guessing.
I don't go anywhere near it because all you need is someone on your team to now go work for another team and go, Jimmy fakes contests. And now you can't wash that off because that's branding too. So I'm like, listen, I know you want to give it to this, but listen, do that. Give that person it, but you got to pull a random winner for another, and you have to do 2 prizes then. You have to. Tony, what's your parting shot?
Dave, that's the most Brooklyn, New York thing I can imagine someone saying. I love it. Hey, I don't know if I ever told you, my dad was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York.
Hey,
my parting shot is, look, you take a plain white t-shirt with a Fruit of the Loom logo on it, and it's worth $3. You slap a Nike swoosh on it, and it's worth $33. Like, if you want to earn more as a W-2 employee, start putting out content, start building your brand, build your network, and your net worth will go up.
Yeah. I would say start, and you're going to be terrible. If I had the cassette tapes for my first radio broadcasts, it would be nails. You would never say that this person was going to make it 10 minutes in radio. I was willing to suck, and then I was willing to get a little better, and I was willing to do the push-ups because I wanted the triceps, right? I wanted the pecs. So if that's what you want, then do it now, because 10 years is going to pass regardless. And don't try to be someone else. It's effort to try to be someone else. If I tried to do, other people's content, it'd be effort, and you'd see right through it. So any tips for students and future PTs that may feel like they're behind? Behind in what, Kenyon? How are you behind? You're a future PT. You're exactly where you need to be.
I would say come back next week, and we'll spend a whole time talking about that.
Be more specific in the comments, Kenyon, and we will make your questions. We'll answer your questions first, because there's a lot. I need to know more. I need to behind it. What, man? You're somehow you followed one of us on LinkedIn, and you're here. So feel like you're behind on what? You're already ahead of the curve. You're on the bleeding edge, man. Because we're at no. But what it tells me is you're looking for things, and that tells me that you're not behind.
For next time, I also think that Tony's probably under monetizing ChoosePTFirst.com, and Jimmy is probably under monetizing the PT to PT referral group. I told him before I've probably generated like 20 grand off of new patients from Jimmy's Facebook group.
The Facebook group that I started.
That's another topic for the future. We all got to run. Let's wrap up.
All right, gentlemen. I'm gonna play the outro. I will not sing again, but we'll see you guys. Same bat channel, same bat time next Thursday morning at 8:30. Thanks, guys.